Morning everybody, and we are going to continue with the theme of storytelling, so I apologise slightly. However, we're going to look at storytelling slightly differently. We're going to look at it in terms of data. How can you actually tell the story of data to your customers? So in the essence of time, we're going to jump straight in, and hopefully we'll get the buttons working. We will. So 5 steps to move from data-driven dashboards to storytelling dashboards, but given we've only got 15 to 20 minutes, and let's face it, the break is begging. It's waiting for us. I'm going to focus on just 2 key parts. 1, how do you start a dialogue with your audience? If you're delivering data on a dashboard, how do you start a dialogue and why do you need to start a dialogue? Number 2, or number 3, if you're going to deliver data through a dashboard, how are you going to engage the user? And engaging them will make them do something with it. But before we get into it, let's consider why do you need to start a dialogue? Why is it that it's different when delivering data through a dashboard to how researchers traditionally deliver data, which is through a live presentation? So if you have a look on your left-hand side there and think about your normal research presentation, where you're standing up in front of the audience, you're delivering the insights, you're engaging the audience, and it's said that the user or the presenter, you, is in total control. Now, I did give this presentation just recently, and a researcher put their hand up and said, Heath, I'm going to be honest with you. I'd like to think I was in control, but I'm not sure I totally was. However, as the presenter, you have control. But it's a fair chance that you've got a low level of detail. So that's not saying that you don't have the detail to support the insight. It's just when you're delivering a live presentation, you've only got a certain amount of time. So therefore, you've scaled back the amount of information. You've tailored the insight to your audience, which in this case, it could be the marketing manager, it could be the insights manager, or it could be the entire brand team. But you're in control. You're the gatekeeper of information when you're presenting. You can identify and point out a low sample size. You can deliver the insight at the right point in time. You can motion the audience from one part of the presentation to the next part of the presentation. So you're in control. But you've got a low level of detail, mainly due to time. Let's look at a dashboard, which is commonly becoming one of the researchers' tool for delivering quantitative data. With a dashboard, you've got low control, but you've generally got a high level of detail. Reason being that modern day dashboards can actually have all of your raw data sitting in the back so you can quickly grab and analyze information. You can answer ad hoc questions on the fly because the raw data is right there at the fingertips of the user. However, you're not there. You're not there to explain the story of the data. So therefore, it's said that you have low control. However, through the use of icons, infographics, alerts, and triggers, we can build infographic or visualization dashboards that put more control back in the hand of the user. Having no control in a dashboard is not a bad thing, especially if the user is an experienced user. So if they're a business analyst or a data scientist who is used to exploring data to find answers, then that's not a problem. But if you want to broaden the distribution of your information to the C-suite that we spoke about earlier, to become that true strategic partner, then they may not have the understanding of the project. They may not know the background. So therefore, we need to explain it through the dashboard itself, explain it through pictures and icons, tell the story without you narrating it. This example here is it's what I call a typical dashboard. In actual fact, it's a fairly good dashboard. Let's quickly step through it. Let's assume that this is for a clothing brand. They gather their income through 2 different streams, retail, online. It's pretty common, isn't it? Happens most days. It's got graphs, it's got some charts. It tells us a little bit about revenue in our up left-hand corner. It tells us a little bit about our media spend, our share of voice, this thing we call brand awareness. It looks at who we're talking to in terms of our target market. It does a number of things to communicate the information. And it actually communicates information effectively. And as expert market practitioners, you'll probably dissect this dashboard rather quickly. However, if you're distributing this dashboard to a wider audience, which is the ultimate goal of market research data, We want to get it out of the hands of just the business analysts. We want to get market research data to the C-suite. We want to get it to the marketing, the product, the brand. We want to get market research data, especially if we're talking customer experience. We want to get that all the way down to the person that can make the change. This dashboard may not speak to those people effectively. You'll notice that this dashboard uses a little traffic light system. We've got blue bar charts and we've got a red. Red is indicating we're below target. The green indicates we're on. So again, not a bad dashboard. However, we can actually change this dashboard to be able to communicate the story a little bit more effectively. I want you to put your C-suite hat on for a sec. You're a fairly busy person. You've only got the elevator pitch, the 30 seconds to be able to quickly look at the dashboard to understand what's going on. Middle column tells you with a big red dot you're down on revenue. Glance across to your left-hand side, another red dot telling you that it's your in-store activity that is the problem, not your online. Quickly glance down to the next red dot. Tells you that your problem is in conversion. Glance across and we'll understand what's going on with our awareness or our product. So by applying logic to the dashboard, we're able to direct the user based on what's important to them. Quickly moving down all the way through. The previous speaker spoke very well about the whys. And that applies to dashboarding as well. It applies to most things. The whys actually was started by Toyota when they had quality issues. And it basically said this: ask yourself or your colleague 5 times why, and you should be able to get to the real answer. That was developed, I think, back in the 1930s, might have been a bit later, but either way, it still stands true today. Let's apply that to the exact same dashboard that I just showed you. All I've done here is laid it out a little bit differently just to prove that dashboards can be laid out differently. But generally, the 5 whys starts with a hard fact. It starts with the what. And on this occasion, our what is, we're down on revenue. Now, that could be brand awareness. That could be advertising effectiveness. It's just that for this particular company, they wanted a dashboard that told the total truth, which was sales and consumer. But you could swap those in and out depending on what the business needs are of your client. So it starts with a what. Our first why is, why are we down on revenue? Well, our stores aren't performing as well as we wanted them to. Our second why is conversion. As you can see from the first chart with the people there, our traffic is good. We've got people coming in. Of the people that are coming in, we're not converting. Less than what we wanted to are actually making that purchase. Our average order volume is actually quite good. So of the people that bought, they bought what we wanted them to. But the issue is conversion. So we ask our third why. Here's an interesting fact for market researchers. They generally say that after the first and second why, the answer lies from market research data. So think about your clients, and we spoke earlier in our first presentation about moving to be a strategic partner, getting a seat at the C-suite table, all those sorts of things. Well, that means we need to understand the business needs. And on this occasion, the business need was driving sales through both our revenues. But the third, fourth, and fifth why is generally answered by consumer research data. On this occasion, the consumer research data identified that product portfolio was wrong and availability of the product was wrong. And if we wanted to, we could keep drilling. We could click on the dashboard, drill further in. Was it by segment? Was it by region? Was it a different demographic? Was it an age thing? What drove the conversion to be down? So here's the interesting thing. For certain users of the dashboard, that's all the information they need to see. They don't need any more. That's enough. However, for our business analysts within the team or our data scientists, they would want to drill and go further. Let's quickly move on to what I'm calling number 2, but it's actually number 3, which is how do you use a dashboard to engage your audience? The previous speaker spoke about engaging the consumer. Yeah? And we all sat there and went, yeah, you're right, we need a hook. Well, the same as when we're presenting data. Because remember, you're presenting the story of the data to your clients. We need to start a dialogue with the data, which means we need to get a conversation going, but we also need to engage the user. For this next example, I want you to think about a customer experience survey. a customer satisfaction survey. So this is in a hotel. You're all staying in a hotel right now. Housekeeping go into the room, and as you know, housekeeping do their best to make that room perfect. They want you to feel great. And as most hotels do, they gather feedback on how that experience was. This is actually a pretty good dashboard. It's got good use of visuals. It's got really clearly defined charts that you can understand. It clearly explains the variables that go beside bathrooms, or the metrics that make up the bathroom, the metrics that make up the bed. And it gives us an overall satisfaction rating at the top. So it's an effective use of visualization to communicate the satisfaction result. However, it's possibly not engaging, especially if you think, who is the person that will affect change? It's not senior management, is it? If you want to affect change and lift your red to a green, that's going to happen at the housekeeper. So what if we actually engage the person who can affect change and distribute the information to them in a more engaging and emotional way? It can be done through a number of different ways. We can actually apply a photo to it, so that when each person who cleaned that room sees their results, they're seeing their own photo. Immediately having a whole of room picture enables us to be able to quickly pinpoint the sections that need to be dealt with. The red on our left near the basin there has a little call out that has verbatims from the person that stayed there. Feedback from the guest. This is how I felt. This will inspire the housekeeper to take action, because they're now emotionally connected to what the experience was that the user had. Equally so, it enables the housekeeper, who's probably not as familiar with data as what we are, as what your client is. They're not analysing the data that way, and they shouldn't have to. But we still want to engage them, especially if we want to drive action. And I'm fairly certain that we all agree one of the key goals of the data that you deliver is that you want it to do something. You want some action. Whether that action is to arrest a situation or to maintain a situation. Otherwise, why are we getting the data? We want your clients to use it so it becomes more valuable. So applying these steps can enable you to be able to deliver that experience to your clients. And remember, market research is in the business of data, so the more accessible the information, the more insightful the insights, the more likely people are to act. And I go back to what I just said 5 seconds ago. I'm almost certain as market researchers, our goal is for people to act on the information that we provide them, to act on the insights that we generate. And if we want that, then it's our job to deliver it in a way that inspires that, as opposed to just delivering the insight and hoping that they'll take it. So I did say I was going to be quick because the break was coming up. So let me quickly summarize what I've spoken about. Number one, provide information to the right people in the right way. A C-suite manager wants information different to a data analyst, who wants information different to, say, a housekeeper, who wants information different to the product manager. If we're going to use an online dashboard as our reporting tool, then we need to provide the information in the right way to the right person. We need to use the tools that are available to us to enable insights through online delivery, not just a presentation where you're talking. Use the infographics, the icons, and the triggers to be able to deliver and engage and put the insight in the hands of the user. And remember, above all else, encourage action. Deliver it through impact. Empower your users, your clients, to take action. And you can only do that by truly understanding their business needs and understanding what it is that they need. So remember, a good visual is not just about communication, it's about generating conversation. And that can be done through an online reporting tool just as effectively as it can be done in life. So I've rushed through that in the hope that you can get out and get a coffee and have a break. Thank you very much for your time.
Excellent presentation, first of all.
Thank you.
And then there was no dialogue. For example, different executive wings will have very different styles in terms of how they assimilate information. And so this was kind of a mono theme, if you will.
Correct.
How would you approach that issue of different styles on the part of different management teams?
So basically, the approach to that is, number one, you've got to understand the different styles. So to your point, you've got to know what those styles are. But you can actually do it through access rights. So therefore, if let's say the different styles are for one department, when that person logs in, they only see that. Don't take them through the part that's not relevant to it. So we can actually set up, or you can set up, through depending on the dashboard platform that you use, access rights. So it just ensures that people don't have to go through. So one of the keys with the dashboard is to reduce friction. So don't make somebody go in, when you're on a website, you've got to click, you've got to click, you've got to click, you've got to click. Take that person to where they need to get to. So for that one there, understand the styles, build a section for that style, a section for this style, but then deliver the person for style A to style A. Deliver the person for style B to style B so they don't have to be bored with going through. So it's just about creating those access rights, but it does come back to what I said right at the start. If you don't know it, then you can't deliver it. And generally that's what happens is we see people rush it because they're under time, so they build exactly that. They build one style for everybody, and it just doesn't engage. So hopefully that answered your question. Yep. Coffee?
Hi. Just one more question. Yeah.
Okay, so I want coffee, all right?
Sure. Hi, this is Gaurav from Tetra Pak.
Hi.
We are trying to implement many dashboard or online tools to visualize stuff and see what insights can be generated through that. The key, I know it's an iterative journey and people continue to evolve as we move ahead.
Yes.
The key barrier which I see is the tools which we are using and the screens getting smaller day by day on which we are accessing these dashboards, especially
Correct.
with multiple levels we talk about in the management. How are we making it more intuitive and easy to use as we go forward?
Okay, that's a really good question. So if I understand it correctly, we're talking about intuitive, but actually for a mobile device, because people are changing the way they view. Okay, here's my take on this. This is my own personal take. How many of you are doing surveys through mobile devices these days? Probably quite a lot. Yeah, everybody. However, one of the most recent studies I saw, we're still doing surveys through mobile devices, but still putting 30 questions on the damn thing. Yeah, or more. So it comes back to that. So the way we do it is we can actually do that. You can scale it back to the mobile device, but some of those dashboards I showed there, if you're going to put that on a mobile device, your poor user is going to be doing this and expanding it. So what we do is we actually come back understanding which part of the audience, which could be the C-suite, and what they exactly need to see. If it's only 2 or 3 metrics, we actually build a little page that's got those 2 or 3 metrics, and it'll know what they've logged in from and just show them that. So don't try and show the whole dashboard on a mobile site, because all we're going to do is frustrate the user. We're going to create friction. So yeah, no, you're right, and that's exactly how we handle it. So tailor it, understand it, but don't try and put, and I know that's hard to say to a researcher, don't put every single piece of information on the site. I know you've done all the hard work, but let's peel it back. So that's how I would approach that. All right, thank you very much, everybody.